Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Martin Luther King Day, and welcome to the Art Studio. I am here to talk to you about all the things that are happening in the studio this week. And first and foremost, we're going to mention that if you are in a preschool class or a toddler class, you do not have class today because of Martin Luther King Day and the schools are off. And so if you've got little ones come to the studio and then you have big ones off school, I know that really throws people for a loop. So if we're able to take the day off, we do. Because of the number of Mondays there are in the month of January, we're able to do that. If you are in a multimedia class or a drawing class, you still have class at your normal time. My homeschool class is meeting today. All our evening classes are meeting today. It was just the preschoolers and the toddlers. Okay, so we'll start off with that note. And then we're going to dive into all of the things that the kids are doing. I've got some project examples to show you. I've got some sketchbooks to show you. And we're going to talk about what everyone's learning and how those January projects and January curriculum are progressing. Remember, it is a weird month where the month started on a Thursday. So I am speaking to week 3, which technically doesn't start till Thursday. My Monday and my Tuesday kiddos that come to class, you're actually still on week 2. So you're doing stuff I'm showing you today are Thursday kids that have already met their week 2 goals and are moving on to week 3. So that it is confusing when the month does that to us. I like it better when months start on Mondays. But so let's talk about those preschool classes to start. It is our light and dark month. I see one of my pictures didn't drop, but that's okay. This is what the template looks like. But the other ones are our photos. It is light and dark month in the studio as we talk about contrast and we look at the art of Vincent van Gogh. We read Where the Wild Things Are, and then last week we read Freight Train, and this week we're reading a really great book. And I brought it to show you because it's actually one of my favorites that we do in the studio. And it's called Flashlight by Lizzie Boyd. And if you ever need a book that explores the concepts of light and dark, this is the book for you. The entire book is low contrast, except for what the flashlight shines on. And there's so many amazing things happening in these illustrations. There are absolutely no words in this book. It is all pictures. So the kids get to help us tell the story. They get to help us read the book and see what happens in the pictures. There's, of course, the highlighted part of the story that is literally highlighted by the flashlight. But there's also some really great happenings that, like storylines that happen in the background of the story in the low contrast areas. So it's a super fun book. We actually read it with flashlights in the lounge. The kids get to do a shadow tracing activity using flashlights. We have little flashlights for them. We also, we go on an animal hunt using our flashlights. So we have animal pictures that are throughout the studio and they can find the animals. And our activity is all using flashlights. So we'll continue to play in the dark in the preschool room. And this will be our last light and dark book. In February, we move on to portraiture and figure. So this is kind of like the grand finale and super fun. So that is what's happening. Excuse me, I need more coffee. That's what's happening in our preschool classes. Let's talk about drawing. Yeah, so remember we have 3 different drawing classes. We have Drawing 101, which is our youngest kids that are learning to focus on a drawing for a length of time, to revisit a drawing, to finish it, to appreciate scale and get proper proportions, to what else? To draw using our eyes just as much as we use our hands, to draw what we actually see is there. So we're working a lot on contour with them. And then we have our Drawing 102, which is the next step up from that class. And we go 2 tracks on that. So we go from the realistic side where they're going to continue to use their powers of observation to draw what they actually see, not what they think they see, and to start adding value and form and dimension to our proper scale perspective contour drawings. And then we go Drawing 102 comic and anime, which is creating characters and drawing a lot more from our imagination. So my Drawing 101s and my Drawing 102 follow the same curriculum, we just are looking for different things from them, right? Because we expect more from our Drawing 102 kiddos. They're older and they're ready for the next step. They're adding visual texture. They're working through their composition. They start adding more values to their picture instead of just line drawings. So I've got some examples here of, this is actually Drawing 101, and they're really good. They did last week in week 2, a still life. Remember, we always draw from photograph, we draw from still life, and then we draw from imagination. That's kind of how our curriculum is written. And then the 4th week is a wild card. So our last week was our still life week, which means we put inanimate objects on the table and we draw them. This month's still life was snow gear. So Miss Allison brought in some hats and gloves and mittens and boots from my house. I just raided the closet. Thankfully it wasn't snowing, so I didn't need that stuff. We also raided the lost and found here in the studio and set up a mountain of snow gear for the kids to draw, which great textures and things. And some of this stuff looks amazing. I love this person's because they cropped it, right? So it was a big still life of lots of things. And they focused in on this stocking cap with the Chiefs hat. You can see there's a snow boot back here, and this is a scarf. I recognize it down here. Whereas this person has a different composition because they drew the whole still life. You can see the whole pile of stuff down there in textures and lines and patterns. Or this is another one that zoomed in. It's hard to see because they ran out of time, but look at how they zoomed in on all the different gear. And trying to get the relationship between objects that are crammed together in a still life it's tricky, right? It's easy to lose your spot. This person did a really good job. They also did a good job coloring, which is a skill in and of itself, to color with colored pencil. And they burnished those two colors together. I can see they did some blending and some mixing. Same thing up here. That's really good. This is another one of our Drawing 101 students. So those are a couple still lifes that I pulled. My 102 comic and anime are working on shading. So week 2, they did stippling, scrumbling, and cross-hatching, and how you add values and shadows to in a drawing with black, right? So we only have a black marker. How do we make it gray? And the way you do it is this is stippling, this is scrumbling, and this is cross-hatching, and all really great examples for that. The week 1, we did line weight, remember? So this is week 2, stippling, scrumbling, and cross-hatching. You can see we've got a value scale down here at the bottom, which is amazing. So this is one of our super experienced kiddos. Not her first time through the class, that's a good thing to mention. I had some parents ask, well, what do we do next year? Because the curriculum doesn't change, you guys. You do it again. You go around and around and around again, because 45 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes with a lesson like this, if you only get it once, you do it again over and over and over, and you get better and better and better at it. I benefit from lessons like this, right? And I've been drawing for 40 years. So anyways, this is stippling, cross-hatching, and scrumbling. Next week in these guys' lesson, remember, this is their technical lesson. They did line weight, then they do shadows. They're going to talk about color and different ways we can add color into artwork. They're going to get to play with some different mediums. So some of them will prefer a wet medium like ink or watercolors. Some will prefer a drier medium like colored pencils. And then some people in the middle with either markers or the alcohol ink markers. So we'll give them some options to figure out which one works best for their style and which ones they just enjoy working with. So personally, I'm a watercolor person, or acrylic ink, because it works like watercolors. So that's what they'll do. My 101s and my 102 Advanced Realistic, this is their month to draw from imagination. They will work on some illustrative techniques to do snowflakes, because it's our winter theme month. So it's a great time for them to also work on their composition. So once we've figured out some snowflakes and how we represent snowflakes and use that muscle in our brain to draw from our imagination, they'll have to figure out, how do I compose this into a piece of art? Which is good practice for our art show that's coming up in April. All right, let's flip flip our screen. We're going to talk through all those multimedia classes. We have some amazing things happening in our acrylic month, acrylic projects. Sorry, I'm grabbing some things here from my desk. I did not bring the big ones. So if you'll remember, our K1s and our second thirds are doing big art, like huge pieces of art. They are currently rolled up in the closet. And so I didn't unroll them because I didn't. It's a pain to get out. I will do a better job of getting some pictures up on social media so you can see the progress on those. Week 1 was just backgrounds and textures. Week 2 was organic and geometric shapes. We looked at the art of Heather Day so we could learn how we position those shapes. We're working really big. So we're not looking for them to be like, here's a circle, here's a star, here's a triangle. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for big shapes, kind of like how this slideshow is. See how the shapes, which way am I? I would not be a good weather person. This way, right? So, because I can't handle the reversing. Anyways, but how the shapes are set up on the slideshow, and these big shapes, they go into the pictures and they come in from the outside, or they take up a good amount of real estate in the composition. So that's what we were working on with them. They also got to switch their color family if they wanted to. Remember, we're working in just kind of one color family each week. So that way we don't cross the color wheel and end up with brown paint. Muddied brown paint. It's not what we're looking for. So I'll work on that. This week in week 3, they will add lines and they will add marks. It's a really interesting concept to think about what a mark is. It's not a shape. It's not a form. It's not something that's filled in solid, but it's line. So we're working smaller into the brushes as they get into more details. Some of them might also choose to add a second coat of paint on their organic or geometric shapes. So if they were a little bit watered down or a little bit see-through, they might do that. Oh, wait, I gotta do one more. So pet portraits are coming along, guys. So we have started to add paint. Remember last time we saw these, they were just like canvases with pencil lines on it. And now we started blocking in some of our areas and adding in color. So we have to mix our colors to get the right shade and get that first layer down. One of the challenges is not the right word. Sometimes words work for me and sometimes they don't. One of the points that we have to hit hard with our kids is a white dog isn't really white. A white dog looks white, but it really isn't white. If we really look at it, it's got grays in it, it's got purples in it, it's got blues in it, it's got browns in it and tans. It might be a warm shadow or a cool shadow. So we can't just leave the canvas white. And I'm not saying that's what this artist is doing. For all I know, this is a brown dog and they just haven't painted it yet. But we do have some that'll say, oh, he's white, so I'm done. And you're like, oh, no. I'm sure there's white in there, but it still has to be painted. So they'll work on getting everything covered with paint. Lots of great color mixing happening, right? And then once it is covered, you can see, for example, like this part over here and this part over here that are brown. And those are just covered like a first coat of paint. Once that's covered, then we can go back in with the second coat of paint and add in texture. So if this is a fluffy dog, maybe our brush texture goes like this. If it's a wiry straight dog, maybe our brush texture goes like this. So the next coat on top will give us texture and shadows and highlights. Okay, we got to get that first coat in. So that's what the pet portrait kids are doing in week 2 or week 3. Week 3 for our middle school, high schoolers. Remember, they're painting on these amazing canvases. In week 2, they started adding these values. See the pineapple back here isn't painted yet, but these guys are in grayscale. This is an underpainting. It will show through when they go over the top with color. And some of our kids got further along than others. Oh, I shouldn't have grabbed this one because it was green. But you can see they started to add in these really great grayscale values. I love that I can see through this one. Look, we can see some of the fabric through that underpainting, which is amazing. So they will continue to add, they need to finish their grayscale in week 3, and then they need to add color on top of this. So this is a pear. I don't know what that is. One of the other spherical fruits. Could be a grapefruit. I don't know. But they'll add the color onto that. So that way we start to see what they are. Aren't those fun? And then they will also color in the background with something if they want to. So lots of painting left to do on that. If your kid comes home from the middle school, high school classes and says, I need more time, they are welcome to come in on Wednesday nights with additional time, whether they miss class or not. They're always welcome on Wednesday nights. Okay. Housekeeping. Speaking of Wednesday nights, so our acrylic month, they are big projects and everybody paints at different paces. If you miss a class, we really recommend that you do a makeup class so that we can still finish your project by the end of the month. So makeup sessions are on Wednesday nights. You can always make a reservation, even if you don't make up a class and you just need additional studio time, but you have to make a reservation. If you just show up, it throws us for a loop because, like I said, the closet is filled with 200 plus projects back there. And trying to locate everyone's project who is coming in for a makeup takes me, Miss Grace, Miss Sarah. It takes us a lot of time to find everybody's stuff. And we do it before you get here so that nobody's waiting on us. When you show up, we just have your stuff and you're ready to go. If we have to do it on the fly, and we're rolling out large sheets of butcher paper to try to locate your abstract painting, it takes a lot of time. It's not as easy this month for us to find the projects as it is in some of the other months because these don't fit in the class cubbies. And so they're kind of all over the place back there. So help us out, make a reservation for your makeups. You can find that information on the website. Go to the main homepage, scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's a quick link for it. Okay. It doesn't move. It will always be there. You can also just type it in the search bar, type makeups, and it'll show up for you, the button where you can make your reservation. Okay. All right. And that goes for drawing kids too. So if you guys miss a class, come in for a makeup session so we can still get you that lesson. Next. We haven't had this issue yet, but it still is only January. So just a reminder, since we have a lot of new students on our weather policy, if we do get snow or ice, or if the school's canceled because of cold, that doesn't necessarily mean that Orange Easel is closed. You can always find our updates. The fastest way to get them is on Twitter. So we will post to Twitter first. That'll be the first place it goes. And then it will go on Facebook in our private Facebook group. Okay. We can also send emails. If you don't see anything in any of those places, we're open. And generally speaking, we're open. We don't usually close for weather. We're usually here for classes, but those are the 3 places to look. And if you don't see anything, we're open. Okay. If you can't make it to class, that's what the makeups are for. All right. Spring break camps are open for registration this morning. So if you're interested in that, go to the special events page of the website, use the search feature if you can't find it, or send me a note and I'll send you the link. Okay. All right. That's it for everybody. Have a wonderful week this week. I will be, I don't know, hanging around, I guess. If you need anything from me, you can always find me here at the Liberty Studio. Send me a Facebook message or an email. It's the best way to reach me. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day today, and I'll chat with you next week.